Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 178. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Down in the comment section, let me know who's your favorite bet this week to win the Masters, because that's what we're going to be going through. Still haven't figured out my card, only have one bet on the card. So here to hopefully help me figure it out, we have from Odds Checker and the Hammer HQ, Geoff Fienberg. Jeff, how we doing?
What is going on, Derek? Happy to throw down with you on Masters Week.
Yeah, always one of the best weeks of the year. It gets old watching Brian Harmon win and losing pot getter bets, and we finally get everybody in one place.
Feels like we're overdue for something special too, right? On a Masters front, a lot of runaway wins the last couple years. A parlay of chalk and uneventful finishes has really just been the story of the Masters the last couple years. Be nice if at least one of those changes, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had some good finishes on tour so far this year, but we definitely haven't had one in the Masters in quite some time. So let's just start there. What is your dream scenario Sunday afternoon?
I mean, like the ultimate dream would be Rory versus Scottie.
That's exactly my thoughts.
Like it's hard. Like I don't want. Like sure, like you can make some fun scenarios that would involve a Spieth or a Bryson, or I could conjure up like something where Fleetwood does something magical or something. But no, What's actually like surprising yet not surprising at all is in how amazing both players have truly been for the better part of the last year and a half. They have not faced down at all. There was, I think, around the players, or there was a tournament this year where it was like the first time they were both in the final two groups
Yeah.
on a weekend in all of this, and that didn't materialize. That material like one of them fizzled out quickly. It all sort of blurs together. So for it to finally happen on the biggest stage would be truly spectacular because let's not kid ourselves. The tour tries to manufacture this. The elevated events, the smaller fields, the no cuts. I mean, they're doing as much as they possibly can for this scenario to just create itself, but it has not.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why everybody gets so excited for the Masters. Obviously, it's the Masters. Obviously, it has the history. Obviously, it's the first major of the year. But since Live has happened, we lost so much star power. And then at the same time, the star power that remains on the PGA Tour just hasn't really been living up to the superstar status. So we long for that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It was nice to see Victor win because there's just been too many players who we consider in that like next group on the PGA Tour that just have gone way too long without winning. Um, and then it begs the question this week, Derek. Like, let's the scenario in which Scotty gets just back to back is hard, right? It just doesn't really happen. I'm not like making the specific reason other than to say the consortium of reasons of why it's hard lead to Scotty not defending a title and Rory's Augusta Demons showing up. That's not like the craziest scenario to envision. And then at that point, we have what feels like one of the most wide open Masters you can think of. Because Morikawa doesn't win, Thomas doesn't win. The live guys still carry question marks. Xander is, I mean, I might be willing to invest in the ceiling, but we know the floor is probably lower than it's ever been for an event of this magnitude in some time, based on his lack of, touch and feel and maybe some important reps. I might bet it on the ceiling though. But so yeah, it then becomes one of the most amazing wide open Masters. And at that point, you're probably wishing, well, if my guy doesn't have to like beat a dragon on the weekend, I wish I did flood the zone with bets. And by that, I mean just like take all the units I was going to bet and just like jam it into the 40 to 80 to 1 tier. and get as many like bodies as possible. But then you snap back into reality, and I'm like, well, it's nice to think those things will happen to Scottie and Rory, but like I don't think so, man. And that just sounds like a proposition of losing more money than I want to.
That you literally just went through my inner monologue over the last 3 days, basically constantly.
Yeah.
I told you before we hopped on. I've had Rory in the bet slip 3 different times and have just chickened out of it because I keep saying the same thing. You know, it's can he get over that hurdle? Do I want to put this much money into one guy? Do I want to take a shotgun approach? And I keep going back and forth myself. It's because I think you're absolutely right. Is there are definitely you can poke holes in both of them, and they are on a tier of their own. And then after that, I mean, you can poke holes or make a case for literally everybody. I mean, I say that hyperbolically, but it's almost anybody you can really make a case for. So I think it sets up to be a very, very interesting Masters.
I hope we get it. And yeah, I mean, I bet Rory at the U.S. Open last year. I took that dive, might have been like 12-1. After that, I just like probably a lot of people have had their moments with Rory's in the last decade or their final moment. No knock on him, just like I'm not. I will enjoy when he wins the major. If I don't bet on it, I might like cry if he wins the Masters this weekend. Like I mean it. Like I think I could see myself like because I love golf so much. It would be such a great magical moment, and knowing the story like all of us, do who love the sport so much. Like I think it would just be lovely. Maybe I'm being a little corny about it, but I think it would be the greatest thing ever. I don't need a bet on it. It would be. I honestly believe if Rory wins the Masters, like in 30 years from now, we will look back on the Tiger win in 19. Like guys, I'd say we're in and around like our age. Like the Tiger win in 19 and this Rory win is like the greatest major win, like greatest wins of our like adult life.
Yeah, I mean every single Masters, it is the story. Can Rory do it this year? So I completely agree with that. And if he does get over that hump, I've never really been the biggest Rory guy, but he's grown on me over the past couple of years. I mean, I think one of the reasons I'm leaning towards potentially betting him is because I don't have a lot of scar tissue of betting him over the years, but it would be a humongous accomplishment. And I think you're absolutely right. It would definitely be up there with Tiger.
I mean, obviously the trends, like there's so many reasons why it feels like it is his moment, right? And like if it does happen, say for him, it'll feel like, oh, that felt like, oh, obvious, like all the signs were there. And you could say that about other guys like Morikawa, Thomas, even Russell Henley. Like if he wins, as my buddy Pat Mayo said, like if he wins on the week if he wins the Masters, like well, it will seem crazy. Like you'll be able to say like, well, I guess all the like signs were there, like the warning signs, the arrows were pointing to it. Despite all that being there with Rory, I still think like you are being a bit cocky, calling your shot. Like this is the time he's going to jump that hurdle and get over it at the Masters. And it's not just like, how do I put this? Like, yes, I do have scar tissue, but after like just being a part of that US Open last year, it was like, you know what? I like him. I want him to win that Masters or that major. I don't need to bet on him when he does. The odds won't be so big where I'm gonna like feel devastated about missing out on something. Like say that he does. So here we are. But all season I haven't like Scottie hasn't got us yet this year, and I'm not really gonna play in those without markets. So I am, push come to shove, gonna just I think take them on.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning to. Now, the only reason I keep making a case for it is because the
Oh, you
narrative
trust the
is
other guys you'd want to bet.
well, yeah, and that's the thing is like you just said, everything just points to Rory. If you take away the name Rory, you take away the Grand Slam, just his current form where he's at, the golfer that he is going into this, I mean, if you were just to say here he is, I mean, everything other than the odds say bet him. And that's where I keep going is it makes so much sense. But then when you add all that baggage on top of it, and it's just hard to get there. So I guess we'll go through the rest of the field because I don't think I'm going to end up getting through Rory. But quickly, we can just go through. I mean, it is Augusta, so we can give Augusta its flowers, no pun intended. Most of us know it intimately, but Augusta National, 7,555 yard par 72. Obviously, very, very fast, undulating bent grass greens. You got to know the course very, very well here. Course history plays a huge part. I mean, there's not a lot of rough, not a lot of trouble off the tee, but a little bit of distance matters. And you got to know where to place your tee shot. A lot of uneven lies, elevation changes, because you got to know where that second shot is going to go. These greens, if you hit the wrong spot, you are definitely not sticking the green. If you hit the wrong spot, three putts are definitely coming into play. So I really think that you cannot emphasize enough how much knowing the course matters here. Definitely want guys that are good with the mid to long irons. You're going to miss greens here. Greens in regulation come in at about 60%. So under greens in regulation for the tour average. It's really a tee to green test, and just obviously it's one of the most prestigious courses, one of the most prestigious tournaments. We know it every year. It's the only major where we actually get to see it each week. So what are you looking for this week on as far as golfers go, Geoff?
So there are so many like in terms of golfers go, like strictly in the outright betting mindset, or like what do we?
I mean, overall, you can go both. Who, as far as winning, what are you looking for, and just as far as being able to contend here and maybe go into the weekend with a chance?
Well, I would say the thing I am most interested about, unrelated to like Rory and that quest, and maybe something at the very top. It's not a bet that I'm going to make, but I am like the golf story that interests me the most this week, other than those main storylines, would be Neiman. Like, is it like let's do something? It's time. All world talent. This course I think does suit his game. Like, let's taste some smoke. I actually think he can win the PGA Championship. I will probably bet him to win the PGA Championship. But
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I do want him to taste a little bit of smoke this week. So that's just like like maybe the storyline that I'm watching for potentially the most outside the very top. And when it comes to picking who I'm going to bet to win, Derek, we have so many trends, right? Like, and the trends seem quite reliable. Like, they back themselves up each year. The guys that win, there seems to be no surprise in their road. A surprise winner is at this point like would be a huge outlier, right? Like maybe we get one a decade. It could feel like that at this point.
Yeah.
That being said, and I know like it's weird. I'm not betting Tommy Fleetwood, but because sometimes I can make some silly bets, but I feel like my criteria is actually stricter than the trends, which is you're either a super elite or I think you're a young golfer who's going to be freaking like amazing over the coming years. Like, that's it. Like, yes, I know the trends point to it, and we're all probably picking from a very small finite group of guys. But as much as there's the trends, like I think we all have the same like internal like roadblocks with a lot of guys. Like, you're not picking no jabronis to win the Masters. So I think the worst thing any of us can do this week is overthink any of it. Now, I say that as someone, maybe it's a luxury or a curse, a blessing or a curse, that I live somewhere where DFS is like legally banned. So if I was playing or having to set lineups this week, yeah, I'd probably be overthinking all of it.
Sometimes I wish I couldn't, because it just
yeah, you're right. It's
honestly,
healthy,
I'd probably
and I'd
be
probably
rich if
save
I
a
just
bit of
bet
money.
instead of,
I'm
yeah.
self-aware enough to know, like, in the end, it's probably plus EV that I can't play it, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
probably just the truth. Do I yearn for like a single entry just to like get my beak wet? Of course, of course. And sometimes like I'll hit up a cousin or something to do it for me. But fact of the matter is I can't. And I get it. Like I would overthink everything in the concept of DFS. But in the concept of like trying to find your like 4, 5, 6 outright bets, like no, don't overthink it. It's the Masters. Like it's all right in front of you. You know these guys well. You know the course well. You know what type of guy is going to win this thing. Like just yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I agree. So we might as well dive into the top of the board. Obviously, we touched on the first two. Scottie is the favorite at 4-1. I think he was like plus 450 last year and took it down. So, I mean, there's no chance that, when you're trying to save a bankroll for the entire season, it's kind of hard to get to a guy at 4-1. Also hard to get to a guy at plus 650, but that's where Rory's at. I think we've exhausted the two of them and their chances to win. They clearly are a step above these guys, but if you had to bet one of the next couple guys here from Rom to JT, Rom at 13 and JT all the way down at 25, where do you think you would lean?
So I've made a couple bets in this
Okay.
range, right? I'm gonna have a small card with just a few, probably 4 guys on it. I bet John Rahm at 16-1. I'm obviously just trusting the ceiling there because there's a lot of unknowns, right? There's still a lot of question marks, despite the shot data from Liv being quite positive. But if you like, anytime I watch Liv, it does seem like he's not he's just not finely tuned in like the intricate parts of the game, some like chipping, I don't know, just some of the stuff he used to dominate so well. So there's a concern there. I'm making the bet with those risks, also acknowledging last year total write-off for the guy, defending
Yeah.
champ. They don't
Yeah.
go back to back, being on Live, new normal that represented for him. The mind expletive that probably was. The other bet I made, I caught it on Bet Rivers on Monday. I bet Xander Schauffele 25-1.
That's where I'm looking at right now.
I know there are unknowns there, and like kind of just I said with Rom, there's some sort of not the same issues, but he hasn't played a ton, so like the finer points of the game, maybe some chipping or putting concerns I could have, but I am. How do I put this? I use the analogy. I'm like at the front row of like the strip club, and I'm a couple beers deep. I'm on the rail, and I'm seeing these stats from the Valspar, those approach stats, and that's enough for me to just want to trust this plus golfer across the board who's got a 4 top 10s in the last 6 years at Augusta, who I would trust if he is in a battle with those other guys, who's probably playing with less pressure than every elite player in the field this week. He doesn't have to prove anything. Like, we don't get to yell at this guy for like 2 years now, right? After what he did last year.
Yep.
Now, in the concept of like me zooming out a little and being like, is Xander Schauffele going to win like 3 of 4 majors, back-to-back majors, turn an Open into a green jacket? Like, what sort of freak, like, okay, we give Xander his respect. What sort of like G do you think he is? Like, that's like a whole other tier, right? Then we're like talking triple Grand Slam come the U.S. Open. Like, that's the conversation you think we're having? And then actually, you're probably right. Like, that doesn't seem very realistic. So everything's a mind warp, right? That's about it. I know I'm not betting Morikawa, not because I don't think he can win. He can obviously win, and if and when he wins, it'll be so easy to point to how we should have seen. Like, that was so easy to call. Like, everything was pointing right to it, that it was just due, like in a volcano about to burst. If you didn't feel that under your feet, you're an idiot. And we'll probably feel that way, a lot of us who aren't going to bet him on the weekend, Derek. But I've just decided, simply between Morikawa and JT, I'd rather bet JT. For one of them is 25 and one of them is like I think Morikawa's actually gone up a bit, so it loses a bit
Yeah,
to
I
my.
think 18 was the best I
Yeah,
saw on him.
DraftKings I think is showing 18 now, so good for them. They're enticing that Morikawa action. Um, right? So that's like if you're a Morikawa guy, that's a great spot to grab it. I just rather JT. I trust them almost equally to like be able to do it. And I just trust I think JT's ability to like maybe around the green a little bit more. And that's it. One of them's a bigger number than the other, and I trust them equally. So, and having to pick like of the guys on those like those former major champs on extended win droughts, JT 25 seems attractive. And there's a scenario where I'd bet him also, and it's just like those guys at the top, and then I'm practically done, other than a long shot. That's just like I've workshopped that in my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, you started with Rom. That was where I was going. I was looking at stuff on Saturday. So I'm at 18, and I was like, that's a good number. Maybe he doesn't finish great in Miami, and I can get him at 20. So I waited. That
Yeah.
number has just gone down since. So I thought about it. I do worry a little bit, not so much just because of Doral, but the fact that he was up there, he was in contention, looked like he had potentially a chance, and then just faltered. Winning is definitely a skill, and we're knocking Morikawa and JT for not having wins in a while. Rom should be able to win much easier on live than he has. Now,
Yep.
I again, it's hard to translate anything that happens on live. So maybe it's just he doesn't care. Maybe it's just, I don't know. It's hard to really get in the mind space of those guys. But I
As
would
someone
like
who's
him.
betting Rom, I've almost convinced myself that he just doesn't like care that much.
Yeah,
Like
I can
he
definitely see
doesn't
it.
give it. He's not. It's not so, like when he's playing, he obviously is playing to make the most optimal outcome in the moment he's living. Like I'm not doubting that in terms of him playing golf holes, but just his like his pre-tournament efforts,
Yeah.
the like lead up to the tournament efforts. I feel I am just of the belief there's just no way they can be um well, like they can be all in. And that I'm
Yeah.
dumb enough and naive enough to think, but these for the Masters, he's like, everything is like ramped up. And for a guy like that, the entire last 3 months is literally for peaking for this moment.
And I do think that there is some merit to that because, you touched on it last year. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit on this show actually last year was his decision to go to live. It looked like he kind of was having second thoughts a little bit and thought maybe that a merger was going to come quicker. And then when he got the cold shoulder from a lot of guys as the defending champ, there was a lot there mentally. And now that that's in the rearview mirror, the fact that he's coming here as a former champ, doesn't have to deal with all the defending champ shit. I do think that he can focus on winning this, and I you'd be silly
He's
to
also
say,
so under the radar.
yeah,
Like
yeah, there,
Bryson is the guy that like
yep,
people probably want to talk to. He Brooks and I mean sorry, Rom and sorry, Scotty and Rory like take so much
mhm.
oxygen up this week. I'm not saying he's a forgotten entity. I don't mean it like that. But he really like isn't taking up any of like the oxygen of the media. Right? Like Colin's getting a lot of it. There's always some for Spieth. But you know what I mean? Like he's kind of just like a role player in this Masters, and I think that just again sets up much better, certainly than last year, and potentially optimally for him to be there till the end.
Yeah, I agree, and he's on the short list for me. As I said, I've only made one bet so far, so I have plenty of room. I am definitely considering Xander again. Last year, I remember saying, everybody knocks him that he can't win a major. And I said, you can't do it until you finally do it. And then once you do it, the floodgates could open. And that's exactly what we saw last year with Xander. Now, again, is he going to be three majors in the span of a year? It's kind of crazy, but I definitely could see it. And at his current price, Why not? I bet him last year at 20 to 1. Maybe you can make a case that he's not in as good a form because of the injury, but you want ball strikers here. We have a guy that's continually, maybe not necessarily contended here outside of the Hideki year where what did he go in the water there down the stretch? But I definitely think Xander could come away with it, and at 25 to 1, I'd be more than willing to jump in on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we agree his like floor is probably lower than it's been for like majors in a while because there are unknowns. He just hasn't, and he hasn't been driving it well. That being said, I feel like he's got a lot of confidence out of his three events. Neither were perfect, but he made the cuts, man. The guy didn't play forever. He made the cut at Bay Hill, right? Did he? You don't.
Was it Bay Hill?
Yeah, he came back for
Yeah,
Bay
yeah,
Hill.
yep,
Which he got put on a schedule crunch, Derek, because no golfer in their right mind takes like 4 months off and then says, "You know where I'm coming back? Bay Hill."
Yeah.
Like he said it, but he knew like, okay, this isn't going to be fun. I'm probably not going to score great, but I got to start getting the reps in now. I don't even have a corny TGL joke or not whatever the Simi League, but obviously he was, ripping drives into that thing. But Bay Hill and the player Sawgrass, those are not fun places to return from injury from.
Absolutely.
He has returned from injury. Bay Hill, Sawgrass, Valspar. That's three hard. I mean, the players is what it is, but it's volatile. Bay Hill and Valspar clearly difficult courses, especially on the PGA Tour schedule spectrum. Bay Hill's probably in the top one or two of the year in, year out. Certainly a podium each year. And Valspar's always in the like a T10. I'm certain of it. So, right, like he's played hard courses. They're unrelenting courses, and those aren't fun places to return from injury from. And I thought he held up quite admirably, showing different improvements each week. And you just almost have to trust him. And Austin Kaiser is one of the best caddies on tour. Not that I'm going to make it anything about him, but just that I trust like the process that like the smallest little thing on the range in the last 2.5 weeks can like fix the driver. Like as small as a fingernail thing that like just clicks. I know it sounds corny, but like any of us, like golf, like, oh, that, like, you don't even know what you were doing, but something just clicked different. And now you got something that you're riding for a few rounds. So, I'm just confident in the man and the preparation. And that ball striking at the Valspar was Kim Jong-un esque. Like in terms of recorded rounds in the history of time, the ball striking of that round appears to be on that level as to what like the Rick Gaiman and data nerds are saying about it. And that's just almost enough for me to like, I'm going to take my chance here because I'm not betting the top two. I don't think that many guys can win. So like what I'm deciding between like 8-12 people. I think Xander's one of them.
Yeah. Yep. And he's definitely on my short list and leaning towards not going Rory. So he's most likely going to be a bet for me. Rahm, I still don't know. I was considering Morikawa, just how well he's been playing. I mean, obviously,
you said take away the name from Rory. I mean, take away the name from Morikawa, and don't think about like any scar tissue. It feels like maybe Xander. I know Morikawa's a major champion, so it's unfair to say it feels like Xander last year. But I'm part of the noise too, and I'm one of these people that are just like, nah, I'm not betting this guy. Like he just lost a bit of his like dog for the weekends in the big moment, right? And Xander was what 14 to 1 going into that Valhalla. And the only guys, me and you, were done. We'd bet him at the Masters. We watched him choke away Wells Fargo. We're like, we're just done with this guy. We're just done. And the only guys that were left standing at Valhalla were the data nerds. That they just, no, the data says like 14 to 1 is actually fair. The data would probably say 18 to 1 for the Morikawa stat line might be as fair a bet as you're going to get here. Really might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet him top 10. Just,
let's just put. If Morikawa had won Bay Hill, had Justin Thomas won Valspar, like, what are their numbers? Morikawa's 10 and JT's 16?
Yeah, maybe even 12, 14.
Right? Like, so I'm not, I know, like, listen, wins are hard, but they're also like fickle. And I'm just saying, I don't think I'm creating this like insanely unrealistic scenario to which either of those two things I mentioned like happened. And like we weighed it so much though, in terms of like our ability to double click a guy for a week like this.
Yeah, I thought about doing the Morikawa and just I was like, is he really gonna win? Can I really trust him if Scotty or Rory are breathing down his neck coming down the stretch? So I went with the top 10, but an 18 doesn't seem terrible. And if he ended up winning, I'd honestly be pissed at myself because everything does point towards it. So got some decisions to make there. And honestly, I probably could fit Morikawa, Xander, and then even still make a couple more further down the board. So JT for me, I do have too much scar tissue. He's just a guy that I've continually bet over the last year, and seeing flashes, and he's been at good numbers, and it just seems like he could potentially get there. His problem lately has just been he will look like he is going to run away with the tournament. And then all of a sudden, there is just a 2 hole stretch where it's like, what the fuck are you doing, JT? And he just has those blow up holes where it completely derails an entire tournament. So that's my only concern here is maybe he can play a little bit more conservative, because I think that is one of the things that gets him in trouble is at times he believes a little bit too much in himself, especially when he is playing well, and it gets him in trouble. So maybe it's, again, me just dealing with the scar tissue and afraid to kind of jump back in it, because he is another guy that outside of not having a win, a lot does point to him.
Yeah, everything points to him, sort of like Morikawa. And it's easy to like visualize, exactly. Any golf fan knows, like, Justin gets on the heaters, and I know it's like a basketball player. He needs like a heat check moment, right? Where
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna launch that one from half court. Like, we got 20 seconds
Yeah.
to run a shot. Let's like set something up here. He's like, nope, I'm gonna like curve it off the tree and run it up to the green. It's like, oh, we're in the water. We made bogey. We just put a bad taste on a great round. On 18. Yeah, that's like that. You live and die by the sword. Because here's the thing: any of these guys we're talking about, and certainly anyone you're going to bet this week, you're just betting them to the ceiling. You're betting them to play their best and their smartest, and it's in there, or like, just please limit the stupid and like just let your great be great. Um, so yes, like, those can bog you down, but anyone who's going to win, you like, they're going to run so pure, and the chances
Absolutely.
they take will pay off, and you're going to have to take them at some points, unless you're Scotty winning by, field goals and stuff.
Yep. So before we move further down the board, you want to touch on Ludwig real quick? I mean, what are your thoughts on him here? I mean, obviously, if you thought he could win, you would have bet him to win. But what are your feelings on Ludwig going into the week?
I feel like if I was creating DraftKings lineups, he would be like my guy.
Yeah, it definitely makes
Because
sense.
he has that ceiling potential, and everyone's sort of, for the moment, he's like priced pretty high, and he's off the miscuts, but he has that sort of like game that could just absolutely pop at any moment as well. But it's hard to bet. Picking winners is hard, so you have to like cross guys off or find reasons to cross guys off. Is almost the part of the game, like the most important part. And just the 2 missed cuts, he's not really playing great. And I know there's that stuff of like, it's hard to back top 5 here. No one's done it since DJ, which is, noteworthy, because we just assume guys that are great here are like just always great here. But there's like a lot of like, I don't want to say misses, because you could finish 12th place or something. That's not top 5. But yeah, like this automatic ascension from 2 to 1, off 2 missed cuts. I thought by now the number would be a lot higher, Derek. Not to say
Yeah.
I'd bet it, but if you ask me, like when I was talking yesterday morning or last night, haven't seen anyone post him up for a bet. So like if the books aren't taking a bet on him, why isn't he like 28, 30 to 1 by now? But we'll
Tells
see.
you they're a little concerned, right?
Yeah, or maybe people are. He's a pretty popular young player. Maybe just the people not in my orbit are actually holding that number down, and good for them. I love the guy. Not this year though. PGA will be perfect for him. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Same with Bryson. I just don't think Augusta is the place for him. I love him. Like you said, PGA, US Open. I'm hoping him and Brooks this week. I'm not expecting to play very well. I'm hoping that they don't and we get better numbers. I mean, the futures market doesn't generally reflect that, but if we get some good numbers on those guys for those two tournaments, I definitely would be down with that. But how you feeling about Brooks this week?
I'm out on Brooks.
Yeah.
I'm out on Brooks. I'm not really interested in Brooks at all. I get
No.
the appeal like of wanting to bet him, and like I understand, and like the case is simple. The guys won 5 majors. We're betting for winners. Like we can like if you're like in this tier, if the guy comes in like second or third place, you didn't bet him top 5. Like it's the same as in terms of like your account, your betting account. That's the same as a miscut. It's a loser.
Mm-hmm.
So if the game is just picking winners, you bet guys who can win. Brooks has proven that. We've just spent 30 minutes talking about guys who don't win.
Yeah, pretty much. So if we
that being said, though, I just don't think he's there. I don't think the game is right. Just on like the live ladder, I would think guys like Sergio, Reed, like I think, yeah, I don't even think he's going to compete on the live ladder, let alone like the full out Masters board. This could be like a cold takes exposed situation for
I
me on the
agree.
weekend
So
because I did some
can
engagement
put me
baiting
there
with it
too.
on the internet. But I'm out. I'm out. Him and Spieth, I think they're the worst numbers on the board.
Yeah, they definitely. I don't see it making sense. Spieth worries you a little bit just because of the history, but that's probably more so from a DraftKings standpoint because he's probably going to be popular. I in no world could I bet him. But I agree completely with Koepka. Don't think the game is there. Basically, you're just going on the majors history. But if we go, wanted to spend some time on the top of the board
Xander
there.
Schauffele won 2 majors last year. And yes, he's only played in 3 events, but he put up a historical approach round in the last time he was hitting the balls.
This is true.
Right? And like in the short term, like anyone coming off a 2 major year, like we should be treating them like a god, like we used to treat Brooks. So that's why.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know why if those are connected, but there. Sorry. Let's move on.
So if we do go further down the board, what do you like here? Have you made any other bets further down the board? What are we looking at this week?
So I've made 1 bet thus far further down the board. Well, 2 if you include like a future that I've had for months, which is Batya at 100. But I still think like you can get him at 80, and I don't know that I'd want to bet on him today. But I do think like superstardom is in his future, so he checks like that box sort of for me of like a criteria that I would want. Like you're either a star right now, or like I just know you're going to be a future star. But Sepp Straka is the name that I bet. Well, he might not check every box. 80 to 1 just seemed really fair. As all of my friends, and great respect to them, I'm not even knocking the pick. I'm just saying is they're all like telling me I need to bet on or should bet Shane Lowry. I'm just like, Sepp Straka's 80, Lowry's 40. Like I'm just gonna start with Straka. Right? I'm gonna start with the guy that's 80 that I think is just as good a chance as the guy a lot of my friends are telling me to bet. I don't want to say he's like truly tasted major championship smoke before, but he's got a couple like really nice performances. His ball striking can play on a Scheffler level, and he has shown an ability to spike putt to the ceiling. And he just seems like a player who really might be ascending into a certain tier on tour. So while I'm like not really expecting anything like anyone to cash an 80 to 1 this week, a 60 to 1, this is the one that I've chosen to pick. I could be tempted to make a couple others, but yeah, this is the one that I've chosen for now.
we might have a very similar card this week. I don't know if that's necessarily
Yeah,
a
no,
great thing,
that's
but
yeah.
I, I've been on Straka pretty much all year. So I'd be pissed at myself if he won a green jacket and I wasn't on him, but he's been playing great. I completely agree. The number 80, it just that seems way too high. I think you could chop that in half and people would probably still bet it. Maybe not the most popular. Maybe that's not the number he should be at, but I definitely think 80 is beyond ridiculous. And then let me sell you on somebody here because this is the only bet that I made so far on Saturday. I made it. So I've never been a Minwoo Lee guy. I
Yeah.
bet him, obviously, last time out, he won. Now, is he going to win back to back with one of those being the Masters? I don't know. But as far as just on the course, Geoff, what do you want in a skill set for a golfer at Augusta?
Well, I love Minwoo Lee, so I don't have to be sold too hard. And his superstardom, I do see. And I've referred to him a couple times this week as I think he actually might be like Cheesecake Factory Bryson. Like we're a middle tier, all right? Like we're not fine dining at 20 to 1, but closer to 50, 60, we're like Cheesecake Factory. And I'm sure someone could give me a fast food 100 to 1 guy with the profile, but this is elite. The elitist of elite driving and some of the most elite chipping putting on in the world. In the world. And those are skill
Absolutely.
sets that you could talk me into betting at any venue, let alone a venue where you can get away with a wayward drive. Like you'd have to get unlucky or really, really screw. You'd really have to screw it badly or get unlucky. But you can play out of some bad drives. We've seen it forever. We've seen it forever here. Do I trust the ball striking? No, but he's been no. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Like that would be the concern. But he's been playing great at tough venues, and he's just been mixing a ton lately. So yeah, I mean, Minwoo Lee, Bobby Mack, Sepp Straka are sort of just the names. Straka's in. I love Minwoo, and Bobby. I don't know. I'm drinking a little bit of Kool-Aid on.
Me too. Just everybody keeps talking him up, and
Yeah, but then
it's
I feel
starting to
like it's
slowly
gonna
seep
be.
in.
Yeah, but then I
I
could
don't
also
love it,
see
but
like being out like not betting him and then enjoying him like just not playing well, and then someone's gonna tweet something snarky about all you guys like talked about Bobby Mack for a week and be like, oh thank God. Like I might have bet some losers this week, Derek, but at least I bet my own losers. Like the thing about Bobby Mack, and I get it. I just feel like I'm picking up your loser. Like
yeah,
Minwoo
yeah.
Lee, that's my loser. Like, cause I am a Minwoo guy, and that's it. That being said, I could maybe be a little less aggressive at the top. But it's not like the hardest thing to do. It's not like Bobby Mack. I can still get it 60, 65 to 1. I can find a way to bet him if I really, really want to. But I'll tell you, the people I trust so much, um, both like on the internet forward facing and like in the shadow, like
Hmm.
nerds who aren't really
Hmm.
content. Bobby Mack, Shane Lowry, like
And
they're
Henley.
just and Henley.
Th-
And the thing,
th-
yeah. So
those are
that's
the
the
three
thing.
that I keep hearing.
But I don't know. I got my own guys to bet, and
Yeah,
I'll just tip my cap. Henley's another one. Like I said it earlier, Henley wins. I'm not gonna feel stupid because I don't bet Russell Henley, but like you're kind of gonna feel stupid because like every arrow on the roadmap said like you should probably bet Russell Henley.
yeah,
Um, that being said, truth be told, like the Masters doesn't. It's always important to remind yourself that it's probably not the greatest like super money making opportunity from an outright perspective.
yeah.
Like the Open Championship, the U.S. Open, like sure, like we can, the field, we can maybe have those conversations there. I almost got to rein it in every time I do get excited about wanting to bet these guys. But Straka's in, and I've got I'm smitten for Minwoo. So those are my thoughts here. Maybe Willie Z. Like if I
That's
flooded
another
the
one I'm
zone,
considering.
he would be definitely a part of that. I
And
think.
I prefer him over a Henley or a Bobby Mack. So I think like you said, I'd rather bet my guys and lose money. So if I lose money on Zalatoris, at least that's I didn't just do it because I heard over and over and over and over that this guy makes so much sense. I love Zalatoris. I think he's at a good number.
Yeah.
So I think I might get there on him.
Yeah. So I'd say those are like the 4 or 5 guys in this range that I'm thinking of. But I mean that is to say I do believe it does feel like the 30 to like 50 range is a bit useless to me. Cuz like Brooks, Spieth, I love Tommy. I'll cry for Tommy, but I'm just not going to bet it. Like I'll just be happy for you. Lowry, like I don't know. And I don't want to pick on Lowry, but I mean, like, you can make a case. Like, guys like Sergio and Reed are, like, just as good and playing as well. Maybe Sergio. I don't say Reed playing as well, though. Reed, I do not mind. I probably going to try to
He's
make
been
some
playing
money on
better
Reed.
lately. I mean, you know,
I
have
don't want to throw
a
stones
second
in
recently
Lowry.
on the Asian tour, so it
Yeah.
wasn't just live. So Reed's he's been showing some flashes.
I'm betting Reed top live 12-1. And
That I was leaning that way.
I say that
Probably
as
between him and
somebody.
Cam Smith.
Yeah, I say that, and you can bet them both. But I
Yeah,
say that as somebody who might even be bet like really likes John Rahm. I just think if the top level doesn't show up this week for Live, that's just like for Reed can barnstorm it. Maybe Sergio, but I don't know. His odds are kind of like too short for me now. I missed any good Sergio line, and now like they're just not even options. All the respect
he's
to him. If he
60 to
could,
1. I'm not
yeah,
going to get there on Sergio.
like all the respect to any of my friends who made the future, and more respect to Sergio who signed that flag right there from 17. If he could do another one, but I'm just gonna miss it at 60 to 1. And with that 60 to 1, the corresponding like prop numbers, the life's been squeezed out of them. So I'd take my shot with Reed. That's the one I'm gonna take my shot with in that live market.
Yeah, I have Reed first round leader. I think that was 60 to 1. And then I have Phil actually first round leader also at 80 to 1. But just real quick to make my sell job on Minwoo Lee, obviously I don't have to sell you on it, but anybody out there that's just considering, I mean, there's a reason he's the only guy that I've bet this year. The fact that he just won in Houston, faltered a little bit down the stretch. Scottie obviously right there. It didn't matter. We last year that crippled how many people, and him, you got to assume that gives him huge confidence. And he's a guy that he's been very streaky in the past. So I do think that it gives him confidence coming in. Now he's already played well this year. We talked about the skill set. You compared him to basically discount Bryson, and I think that is a good comp. But the difference is Bryson's an incredible putter. He does not have the chipping game that Minwoo has. Minwoo has great feel around the greens, which obviously you need here. So do love that. Hasn't had the greatest track record at Augusta, but last year 22nd, he broke his finger the week before, had the flu the week before. So a top 25 is not terrible. And then obviously he played well in his debut at Augusta too. And then one of the things that I think goes overlooked a lot is caddies. And on his bag is Bo Martin. And Bo Martin was the caddy for Shane Lowry when he won the Open. He was the caddy for Shane Lowry when he came third here at Augusta. So there are just so many boxes that I love for Minwoo. As I said, not a huge Minwoo guy. And the further I dove into him, I just absolutely fell in love with him this week. And I bet a top 10 on him as well.
Love it. Let's cook. Let's cook. Wouldn't that be? That'd be so much fun. I'm in. I think. So one way or another, I'll be invested in Minwoo this week.
So yeah, probably going to get in on Straka on the 80, probably Zalatoris. And then there's really not much else that I like from an outright standpoint. Probably get into the live market, maybe some of the nationalities. Was there anything that stood out on some of those secondary markets to you that
Yeah,
other
I gotta
than the live?
say, Corey Connors, I see like pick 'em or even up to minus 120
Yeah.
for top Canadian. Like I don't use some of those terms. I don't use like lock or something stupid like that. There's no such thing. But it almost doesn't like seem. It just seems. It just seems too easy that like it's a trick. I guess it just seems
Yeah,
like a
kind of.
trick. Taylor's never made the cut here. Penrith a debutant. Weir's going home. Not going home. He works Canadian television for the weekend. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Corey Connor is like the profile slays here. So, sometimes I'm tempted. I put a nice little piece on that. Not that it would pay for the week, but that like in terms of rest, that'll probably be the biggest Masters bet I got. I mentioned Reed, Ben Ann, top Asian. I'm in on that one. I
I
got
don't
plus
mind that.
450. Obviously, Hideki can scare me, and I don't mean to disrespect any of the other Koreans, but Ben Ann's floor just seems pretty high here. I won't yell at him when he missed the putts. He'll just hold the line for that top Asian plus 450. That's what I'm looking at. And I might make two bets in the debutante market, Derek.
Okay. I'm
I don't
I'm
know if
looking at
that's I don't
as
know if that's
well.
like the smartest move to like double dip a market, but Davis Thompson at the top and Laurie Cantor at the back are two that I'm looking at. Obviously, just Thomas. There's an all-world skill there. Um, Mav's great. Rye can play great. But Thomas would be my pick of those three. I'd say of the big three. And Laurie Cantor, two-time European Tour winner. He's just been playing really strong golf. I think he could like barnstorm that board. So like 12 or 14 to 1, I think might be pretty fair for him. But obviously, you'd have to survive those guys at the top.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Rye in that market. I just doesn't really have the distance necessarily that you want, but it's a guy that's accurate. You know, he's good on the par fives despite not having distance. So I kind of like where his numbers at, but I could definitely see the guys that you said, but I think I'm leaning Rye in that
And
one.
I
I kind of like him.
and I like this Jose. He was the favorite. It was like almost 2 to 1 or like plus 180. Jose Luis Ballester for the low am. But then I saw he's paired with Scottie, and like I don't know. That just seems like a big variable that other amateurs don't have. That's just like a heavy a gallery. That's just like a lot. I think
Yeah.
playing like a prime time pairing, the Masters. You're an amateur, so that sort of got me like real cold feet on that one. I'd have to reevaluate because what regardless of what I think or my number might say, that's like a variable that I feel I must be accounted for. I think.
Yeah. I was looking at a couple matchups too. Uh, I said I love Min Woo. I might as well go all in on him. He's actually even money against Hatton. We know Hatton has vocalized his disdain for Augusta. Played all right last year, but I don't mind that one. And then we have where was it? Phil over Brian Harmon. Harmon has never really played well here. Coming off a win, that really doesn't matter to me much. And Phil obviously has the track record at Augusta. He's been playing well on Live. He's come down on the distance a little bit, but actually been much more accurate finding fairways. He's been putting well, so I could take a look maybe at that one again. And again, we're not looking at crazy markets. These are basically even money bets, but I didn't mind those two. They kind of stuck out to me there.
I don't think a bet's gotten more steam than Phil Top Senior.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
it's
seen some places move it to like minus 220.
yeah. I mean, you said Connors was look like it was the easy one. That there's really no one in that market other than Phil that you really could bet. But at the current number, maybe that's not really what you want to do. And then also just round one, I was looking at the matchups as well. And if I'm picking on Hatton, Zalatoris is minus 105 against Hatton. Don't hate that either.
Yeah, I don't have anything to besmirch that with. Allen's just been playing so poor lately. You'd think he would get around nicely here, but he's not. I saw he's in a group with Spieth. It's a very entertaining group. It's guys that play like all over the map and are very outwardly demonstrative about their shots. So looking forward to actually Spieth Hatton, like someone else, the third guy in there also could be a firecracker. I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, that might be the group to watch.
Yeah, that could definitely be interesting. You'd have to assume the crowds are going to be pretty big there too. So, they could feed off of it either way. If they're doing well or playing poorly, I mean, it could go really good or really bad for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through our basically dream scenarios. We've gone through the entire odds board. We're getting to the end. So Geoff, you're the Masters champion. What is your menu?
Oh, I like Scotty's.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, I like Scotty's. I would probably like do a lot of what Scotty does, just in like holistically. The appetizers would be a lot of like refined versions of like kids menu stuff, and then like some great piece of meat for the main.
Yeah,
Right,
I'd
like
probably
right.
have to do a fillet.
Yeah, like he right. So that is and that's essentially what Scotty did. It's like sliders and fried
Yeah.
shrimp and
Yep.
right, like right, and like a big cookie for dessert. So a lot of like the ancillary stuff is like adulted spinned versions of the children's menu, and then some like beautiful cuts of steak or fish if that's what people are into, like entree options. So yeah, I'd follow Scotty's lead.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'd probably just go with my go-to big boy restaurant. I mean, probably start it off with some calamari,
Yeah.
go to second course Dungeness crab pasta, then would have to have a fillet and fish option, maybe a halibut. So
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy. But it's Masters Week, Geoff. We went through the field. I think we made some pretty good cases for and against guys, and I couldn't be more excited for this to get here. It's still 2 days away, but it seems like it's going to take forever.
Yeah, hopefully we just get a great finish. We're owed one from this tournament. We used to get them all
Absolutely.
the time, so let's get one
Yep.
again.
Couldn't agree more. So let them know where to find you, Geoff.
At G Fienberg 17 on Twitter. Just if you're interested in me or enjoy my content, just keep an eye there. Just sort of post all that stuff up. We'll be doing a live cut sweat the last like hour and a half of I guess Friday's round, but I'll be posting a bunch of stuff throughout the Masters week. So give it a follow or stay locked in.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Geoff.
All the best.
Good
Derek.
luck this week.
Anytime, buddy.
I'll talk to you soon. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Totally excited for the Masters. As I said, tons of content out already. Check out thehelmsports.com. Have my write up over there for the preview, have the course preview, recent history, key stats, breaking down some golfers to consider there. Then have all the live guys, all 12 of them. I broke down their stats for live this year, their recent form coming in, their Masters history. So check that out. Get into the madlabmma.com. Obviously, MadLab has MMA on lock every single week. And then as soon as I make any bet, it goes right into the Discord the second I make it. So you can get the same odds there. Also, you can check thehelmsports.com in the My Bets tab on Wednesday evening. Each week, I post all my bets there. Now, obviously, last minute, maybe some of those odds have changed, but you could still check that out to see my whole card there each week. Check me out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at The Helm Sports. But that's going to do it for me for this week. As always, greatly appreciated to everyone that listening, supporting, all that good stuff. Hit that like button on your way out. But I'm your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
just have fun out there.